Get started. Appreciate everybody sort of working around our schedule this morning. We were in decision making, and so we were using every minute that we had, and so sorry we kept you waiting to get started. But we are glad that you're here with us today. We welcome you all to the Dobbs Building, to our hearing room. And Joanne and Bob, if okay, I'll turn it over to you all and ask you all to make some introductions, if you would.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Mitchell and members of the commission. It's good to see you here. We realize we dispossessed you from your upstairs room, so we thank you for giving us an opportunity to meet there. And we're a happy little band this morning, so we had a pretty good time out in the hall, catching up on things. Thank you for your time. We are going to move quickly into an agenda, which I believe you have a copy of at your table. And I think you also have the annual report at the bench. Great. I'd like to quickly recognize our board members, many of which are here. Kendall Bowman was here for the earlier meeting, but she's had to leave. We can all imagine there's a lot going on. And one or two of our members were available remotely and I think are not available for us here. So let me introduce the board members and ask them to stand, please. I've mentioned Kendall. Dion Delegati, I think, was a remote attendee this morning. Chris Edge from Duke Energy. Hayes Finley, I believe, was also a remote attendee this morning. Adam Foodman. Thank you, Adam. Catherine Collins. Catherine was remote. She was engaged with us earlier this morning. Peter Ledford, Clean Energy Director of the Office of the Governor. Bob Powell, A&T State University and Vice Chair of the Board. Paul Spruill from Tideline EMC. Gayleen Watson from Dominion Energy. And Carl Wilkins with Quanta Technology. Thank you very much. With me at the table this morning is Bob Goodson. Again, we thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn it over to Bob. He will make a few comments, and then we'll call the speakers this morning, most or all of whom I think are already assembled at our table. So thank you.
Thanks, Joanne, and thank you all for the opportunity to come and talk about our activities this year in 2022. It's been a trying time the last 3 years for all of us, trying to do our work at the same time during the pandemic, try to keep things together. But we're real excited about things we've done this year and want to share those with you. We have 3 speakers this morning. Brian Coble, who is our Chief Operating Officer. Brian, will talk a little bit about our annual report, and this will be the highlights of the major activities that we've accomplished this year. And we have 2 of our very excellent project managers that we wanted today to talk about a couple of the things that we've been doing this year that we thought might be of interest. The first is Lisa Manuel. Lisa's been with Advanced Energy for 22 years and has really been very instrumental in a lot of our activities that we've been working on with low to moderate income housing, and we wanted to share that. And then Jacob Bolin, who has been with us 5 years. Jacob has been in the electric vehicle marketplace, everything from education to really looking at infrastructure, and an exciting time. And it's been a while since Jacob has spoken to this body, and we wanted Jacob to bring us all up to speed on what's going on in electric transportation. So I will now turn it over to Brian Coble and just kick it off. Brian?
Great. Thank you, Bob. And thanks. I'll echo Bob's thank you for having us here. It's great to be in person. Great to see all of you. And as Bob mentioned, we have 2 speakers today. I'm going to generally go through the annual report that you have in front of you. Any affordable housing comments and most electric vehicle comments, Jacob and Lisa will cover in their presentations. But I'm going to generally flow through the document that you have there. And I'd like to start by talking about our work around bold ideas to big impacts. In our 2021 report to you all, we covered our accomplishments for the past 40 years. And that work flowed very well into considering our strategy for the next decade. And so this year we put a lot of work with various stakeholders and our board into thinking about what the future of advanced energy looks like, and came up with 3 areas of focus or bold ideas. I'll read those for you. Help industry and stakeholders meet decarbonization goals cost effectively. Ensure the reliable integration of distributed energy resources into the electrical system. And protect energy affordability through innovative energy efficiency and demand flexibility. So we'll use each of these bold ideas to help guide us into the future. And this will allow us to remain in alignment with our purpose, our original purpose, and optimize our impact moving forward. And so while we spent time thinking about our future strategy, we also continued the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. You'll see as we go through this, a lot of our emerging technology research deals with strategies to reduce winter peak demand. Several of these are focused in that area, and I'll just walk through each of these for you. The first, manufactured homes winter peak study. We're working to better understand the energy consumption of manufactured homes. We've installed monitoring equipment on 30 manufactured homes to measure the energy usage through winter, to better and effectively design energy upgrades and measures in the future for that home type. On another project, the residential battery storage study, we're exploring the impacts of residential storage on electric customers' peak demand. And in this case, we're working with 10 residential customers who had already installed their own battery storage to monitor their use and how they're using those batteries. In this case, we're giving very little direction on how to use those. We're trying to create a baseline of how they would be used with no intervention. The smart thermostat performance analysis.
Brian, may I interrupt you?
Of course.
And I encourage commissioners to do the same thing, but this program where you're studying the battery, the energy storage usage, can you tell me more about it? First, who is the electric provider for the participants in the program?
Yep, combination of Duke Energy and the electric cooperatives.
Okay. And what are y'all finding?
Well, I have an expert, obviously, who knows more of what we're finding. One interesting anecdote I can give you is that there was a hope that there would be energy stored that could be deployed in the morning peak. What we're finding is a lot of the users are more advanced in the way they use their battery. So they're storing energy during the day. They have electric vehicles, they have solar. They're using their solar energy to put energy into the battery. Then they're deploying that overnight to charge their electric vehicle. So it's actually not there in some cases for the morning peak. So that's one anecdote.
But so you see them drawing less energy off the grid?
Yes, we do see them drawing less energy off the grid, but because of their renewables.
Okay.
The solar
Yeah, so all participants have solar, I'm assuming?
It's a mixture.
Okay.
Some do, some don't.
Okay, so there are instances of just storage, no solar.
Yes.
Okay.
And happy to give you more information on that. We have a team that's doing that research that could give you more in-depth.
I would appreciate that. Maybe
Yeah.
at the next meeting, y'all could present on that.
That sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just follow? Did you say though that there's only 10 of that?
There are only 10 at this point.
Well, so, I mean, can we really, and they're kind of split in different categories? Was this sort of a pilot
Yes.
research project to go scale? Because I would be concerned it might be dangerous to have us infer what 3 people
Yeah.
that fit into a certain subgroup
I would
do.
agree. We call this investigative research, where we're just trying to get a general idea of what may lead into further, more robust research in the future.
And then that would be at a much larger scale.
Exactly.
Okay.
And could I ask one question about the manufactured homes project?
Sure.
I mean, when I think about manufactured homes, I think about them falling into basically 2 categories. One's like mobile homes. And then secondly, I think about modular homes that kind of come in on a truck and then are put together. Which are you focusing on, mobile, modular, and likewise, how did you pick the 30 homes that you're evaluating? Because I think some of them might be more efficient if they were built in recent years as opposed to those that might have been built 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, good questions. So these are mobile homes.
Okay,
We're focusing on Western North Carolina, so there's a regional approach to the homes that we're choosing. And we are choosing, there was a major code change in 78 with the
Okay.
HUD code, and we are focusing on homes that are within HUD code.
Got it.
And then a mixture of homes that have heat pump, air source heat pumps for heating, and also electric furnace.
Excellent. And what's the duration of the study?
The duration of the study, luckily, the initial study is through this winter.
Okay.
But now that they're instrumented, it's easy for us to continue studies into the future. So we anticipate this going forward for the next 2 to 3 years.
Excellent. That'll provide some good, valuable insights and
Yeah,
information.
the original purpose of the study was to just look at this particular winter from 2022 to 2023.
I think it's an excellent project, so I look forward to hearing and learning more about it as your study moves further along.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
And
But
we
it's-
would be, again, happy to host a meeting where we talk in more depth and have our leads for each of these areas talk to you about each research project.
Brian, you might have said this, and I apologize if you did, but same question. How many are there in
This
this?
project of 30 homes.
30. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. And then the program design and metering strategies for EV households. We have research underway to study various program strategies that resonate well with electric cooperative members that own an electric vehicle. And the goal here is to find managed charging strategies that will optimize grid integration of EVs. This is more research that we have underway now. And then finally, we continue to be active in providing power quality support. This is we've done work in power quality for many years, but we've purchased a SAG generator for our lab, which is new for us. Our staff is trained on that piece of equipment now, and we'll be doing our first research projects beginning next week, and to help research the impacts of transient voltage events for utilities and manufacturers. So we're very excited about moving into that area. And now I'm going to move into our motor lab.
Brian, before you start this next section, I'm looking at your annual report. I'm on page 5, and the heading on that page is improving energy efficiency in underserved communities.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you about one program, System Vision Plus Solar. You indicate that you've installed solar arrays on 7 homes. And I assume you're assessing the impact to the electric bills from the solar. But can you talk a little bit about why AEC sees this program as an example of energy efficiency?
Yeah, so this will be in Lisa's section as well. I think that's a really good question.
So am I putting you on this, Lisa, are you prepared to discuss this? I mean, Brian, I want to hear your reaction.
Yes.
But Lisa, I want to hear yours too, but go ahead, Brian.
I think that I'm not sure that I have a great response for how that should be considered energy efficiency. The homes that those solar arrays are being added to participate in the System Vision program. So they reach a beyond code level of energy efficiency. And so we
Okay.
do believe that that's an important component, especially in the affordable housing market, to make sure that you've attacked energy efficiency first.
Okay.
I think that.
And you're talking about sort of traditional building code or weatherization, the construction of the actual home meets certain standards.
Exactly, beyond code.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we are now exploring through a pilot, adding solar to those homes. You know, in reflection, the title probably should have been energy efficiency and solar, or, you know,
Okay.
the title and the book probably should have been modified, but
Okay.
it's adding solar energy as a pilot to already efficient homes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Commissioner Hughes, did you want to?
Well, again, I just, There was a recently approved a new residential construction program for DEC. I think DEP has had this in the past, and I was just curious because I know historically System Vision seems to have some of the same objectives of that. So I was just going to ask if you had any partnerships or kind of how you were tracking your traditional System Vision with this new program.
Yeah, we do not have any partnerships at this point with the new program. I have limited experience with that new program. The System Vision program has been developed very closely with the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, specifically for the home ownership program that they serve. And so in addition to energy efficiency, we've integrated universal design and other measures that they're really important to the Housing Finance Agency. And so that program's currently very specific to serving the Housing Finance Agency's customers. We do align with Energy Star quite regularly and also Duke Energy's RNC program, but I'm not as familiar with that. Good. All right, so on to our electric motor lab. And so our lab has expanded on our ANSI accreditation by becoming a recognized certification body for the Standard Council of Canada. This recognition allows us to test to Canadian standards in addition to our existing capabilities in Mexico and the United States. And this increases our ability to work with motor manufacturers. Now we have the ability to work with motor manufacturers on Canadian standards, standards in the United States, and standards in Mexico. Then we continue to work with motor service centers. Our staff regularly visits motor repair shops and assesses their repair processes. When an electric motor breaks, it's often more cost-effective to repair that motor than to replace it with a new one. And if the motor repair isn't performed correctly, there can be a significant reduction in durability and efficiency. We monitor and provide feedback on the service center's repair process to ensure motor efficiency is not lost in that process. And then finally, we've also extended our work with a consortium of the major electric utilities in California to create standardized testing methods for certain unregulated motors. In this case, it was air-over motors that had not been regulated in the past. We helped the utilities of California and California in whole prepare to meet regulations that just came out from the Department of Energy on that motor type. We're now working with testing on motors as well as variable frequency drives that are important to those utilities of California. Okay, and solar, we had a major milestone this year. We had passed a gigawatt of solar power in the Carolinas that we have consulted on the interconnection, safe interconnection of. That program started in 2017. As a reminder, the goal of this work effort is to protect the power quality, reliability, and safety of the utility grid. And we continue to support North Carolina utilities with the interconnection of new technologies such as batteries, and also are moving into transmission interconnection, more support there. And I'd also like to note, we were invited to the inaugural training for the IEEE 1547 Conformity Assessment Certification Program. Being involved at such an early stage in IEEE is a testament to the respect that the industry has for our staff's knowledge. We're very happy to be a part of that. And then moving on to our commercial and industrial work. This year, our energy assessments have supported facilities.
Brian, I'm going to interrupt you again.
Yes.
Back to the inspections of the solar facilities. What are you all finding?
What we are
I
finding.
guess maybe my question is specifically about the previously uninspected.
Yeah, so the previously uninspected facilities was a very new program, and I'm not prepared
Okay,
to speak
got
to
it.
what we're finding there.
Okay.
I'd say what I can say is that what we're seeing in the sites that we are inspecting is that our time spent on those sites is reducing.
Okay.
So we're seeing an ability for the market to meet the standards that are in place
Okay.
more easily.
And that is with respect to sites that you've been to for the first time. So these are newly commissioned or newly placed in service
That is
sites.
correct.
Okay. Okay.
Great, thank you. So in our C&I work this year, we worked with metal fabrication, plastics, powder manufacturing, freight truck manufacturers, bread baking, telecommunications, pharmaceuticals groups, and all about 30 companies across their businesses across the state. And in addition to our energy assessments, we continued our work in strategic energy management by building cohorts of companies to learn about ISO 50001 and 50001 Ready. And we completed our third North Carolina-based ISO 50001 cohort, which was sponsored by Duke Energy, and continued our work with the Federal Energy Management Program by developing a cohort with TVA. So that work continues to expand for us and is very valuable for us. And then finally, I want to provide a quick update on the North Carolina Green Power program. We filed a written report with you all on December 1st that provides greater detail into our activities. And 2022 has been really impactful for the Green Power program. We provided solar demonstration projects for 17 schools. We reached 6 new counties and provided curriculum support to 72 teachers. In addition to our solar installations, we've expanded our efforts into energy efficiency, and we partnered with the Department of Environmental Quality to upgrade inefficient gymnasium lighting to LED. So far this year, we've upgraded lighting or provided HVAC replacement in 73 schools. And by the end of the year, we will upgrade interior and exterior lighting in an additional 9. The projected map you see here shows in green the energy efficiency upgrades work that we performed that began this year. And then in yellow, solar installations since the creation of the Solar Schools program.
Ryan, can I?
Yep, for sure.
So I'm assuming that most of that work is technical, but with the IRA programs and all the kind of soup of different rebates and things that are also going to apply to the commercial and the institutional sector, is that something that you provide assistance with to schools too, to kind of, understand? And obviously, they have different tax implications. And is that something that you all work with as well, or is it more of just a kind of audit approach?
Yeah, well, this is more of an installation approach of where we're actually installing those measures. But in the future, we have a committee, a subcommittee, where we're looking at IIJA funds, other funding opportunities, and determining how they can help us meet our purpose and our mission. And so we will be carrying opportunities to schools and other partners to help do more of this type of work. And solar schools, energy efficiency in schools, we think will be very successful. We're at the very early stages of assessing what that looks like, how exactly we'll do it. But we do intend to, that is our primary business development focus.
And historically, is some of this fee for service work where the schools actually pay you, or are you able to have you been getting third party funding?
We've been getting third party. So the school lighting project has been heavily funded by ARPA funds that came to us through the Department of Environmental Quality. Our Solar Schools project and the Solar Demonstrations project, we help schools do fundraising. So they do provide some funding. Yes. Okay.
I know about that one.
So there is some funding provided through fundraising efforts.
Okay, thank you.
I had one question. I was just curious, just looking at the map you have here, and in terms of energy efficiency upgrades, it shows a pretty high level of concentrations in Robeson County and in Vance County, and I didn't know if there was a reason behind there was special effort put into projects in those particular counties, or if the clustering was part of a plan of some type.
Yeah, so that shows a strategic shift in the way we went after those projects. We went to the district level.
I see.
So we had a very limited timeline to do this work. So instead of going to the individual schools, we sought districts that could help take us to the schools. So the districts that we had a lot of success with, you can see
Sure.
through the concentration. We were also focusing on tier one counties, of course.
Yeah.
And so districts in tier one counties. And so now our goal, to Commissioner Hughes' point, is to find more funding to help us reach those other tier one counties and those other districts.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have. And I'm thankful for the interaction. You're good. Now I'll hand things over to Lisa Manuel.
Thanks, Brian.
Good morning. Thank you all for the opportunity this morning to cover projects and work that we are focusing on around low to moderate income. First, I'll cover our system vision, single family new construction. So this is an affordable housing program that we have a partnership with through North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. We created program standards to ensure that these homes are built healthy, safe, comfortable, durable, energy efficient, affordable to purchase and to live in. So System Vision has been in place for 21 years, and through that time, we have guaranteed over 6,100 homes. And these homes are receiving 2 guarantees. So one guarantee for comfort and one guarantee for heating and cooling, the heating and cooling portion of their utilities. And so for these size homes, that's typically about $35 a month for heating and cooling. We are currently working with 55 Habitat for Humanities and community development organizations across the state of North Carolina. And so on this slide, I want to cover number 2 and number 3 on the list: enhancing electric cooperative rebate program and supportive housing mechanical equipment upgrades. These are 2 projects that in 2021, we were awarded CARES Act funding through NCDEQ. So the supportive housing project to help HVAC, replacing water heaters and HVAC systems, and the enhancing electric cooperatives focused on low to moderate income homeowners in the cooperatives territory. We found that the HVAC system is often the largest energy consumer in homes. And so our goal was to replace older inefficient systems with high efficiency systems. And so in 2021, we successfully replaced 63 HVAC systems and 34 water heaters. But today I want to focus on work effort for 2022. We did respond to a RFP to continue these 2 projects. We were awarded in April a little over $1.1 million across all 3 of these projects through ARPA funding through NCDEQ. So for the enhancing electric cooperatives, we received around $430,000. Supportive housing, $577,000. And a new project that we proposed, we talked about it a little bit earlier, is our solar PV for affordable housing, right at $100,000. And the focus for all 3 of these projects is for tier 1 and tier 2 counties as defined by the North Carolina Commerce County Distress Ranking. The funding was effective from April to September 30th of this year.
Lisa, could you just clarify was the 3rd bullet on there for the co-ops as well, or was that brought into
The solar?
no, the supportive housing mechanical equipment upgrades, was that solely for electric cooperatives, or was that?
No, the supportive housing organizations that we reached are all over the state. And so it's not specific to one utility. It's the different organizations that help persons that are experiencing homelessness or with disabilities. So it could be like a homeless shelter or domestic violence shelter, that type of thing.
Thanks.
Let's see. Lost my spot. Sorry. So going over the Enhanced and Electric Cooperative Rebate Program, this did focus on the cooperatives and existing low to moderate income homeowners. Our focus was to replace the inefficient HVAC systems to help reduce their energy burden and provide comfort in the homes. We partnered with the electric cooperatives listed here: Piedmont EMC, Randolph, EMC Brunswick, EMC South River, and EMC and PD Electric to fully fund high efficiency heat pump HVAC systems. So by partnering with these electric cooperatives, that allowed the program to effectively target homeowners that were high energy users due to like their utility billing history. We received 47 applications that met the income criteria. 17 of those applications we were not able to accommodate because the homes had either health, safety, or durability concerns that needed repair before we could proceed. 30 households received new HVAC systems, and 4 of those received new ductwork. And all 5 of these cooperatives are in Tier 1 and Tier 2 counties. So this slide shows a few pictures of the HVAC systems and thermostats during our pre-site visits. So we contracted with HVAC contractors in each of those areas. They went out to the homes, did an assessment of the existing equipment, and gave us price quotes for the installs. There were different house characteristics. So we had some manufactured homes, single wide and double wide, and stick-built homes on slab and crawl space. And as you can see here, the HVAC systems are at various stages of repair and functionality. This slide is a few more before and after images, the HVAC systems and some thermostats. What we did for each install, we did conduct a QA inspection of the work. A few more pictures here. HVAC system. There's a smart thermostat that was installed, and an image here of the new duct system under the home. So now talking about impact. Advanced Energy, we use modeling software, our Ecotrope modeling software, and all types of the homes. So we have 4 different types that I mentioned: the manufactured and the stick built, to produce predicted savings. So across all 30 homes, the total annual predicted savings is should be about $20,520 for these homeowners. So again, that's all across all 30 homes. Next, I'll talk about the supportive housing, mechanical equipment.
Ask you one quick question. That's the totality of the savings over all the homes. What does it break out to? I guess it's on this chart, kind of per home.
Unfortunately, I don't have that information readily available per
Okay.
home, but we do have it. I just did provide totals. And so this breaks out the electric savings.
Yes.
And then 2 homes that have fuel, but across all 30.
It would be good to know if you could share that with us afterwards.
Yes.
Thank you.
So it's a supportive housing mechanical equipment upgrade. We were able to use our System Vision new construction program standards to create standards to assist supportive housing organizations. And these standards are to help the organizations to build new constructions or rehabilitate their emergency and permanent housing. Again, these serve as folks that are experiencing homelessness, disabilities, or other special needs. And I gave the example earlier of domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, and transitional housing for folks that are moving out of homelessness. This project, again, was a continuation from our 2021 CARES Act. So to give you a little bit of background, in 2021, we received 13 applications from these supportive housing organizations, and they request replacement of 170 HVAC systems and water heaters. So our funding from 2021, we were able to accommodate 7 organizations and replace 22 HVAC systems and 34 water heaters. So due to that overwhelming interest, we did establish a waiting list. And our aim for this year was to replace as many units from that waiting list as we could based on our funding. And so replacing these HVAC systems and water heaters with higher efficiency systems, and also providing education to the supportive housing organization on low to no cost energy efficiency opportunities and best practices. So this year for 2022, we did service 3 organizations, and these organizations were multi-family apartment units. They provide housing for persons with disability, and it was for transitional housing for people that were moving out of homelessness. We were able to reach different areas across the state. So in the mountains, one of the organizations were in Hendersonville, and the Piedmont, Greensboro, and Coastal Plains. One of the organizations was in Washington, North Carolina. And out of those organizations, 2 were in the Tier 2 counties. And this is the image here of one of the organizations. This is some equipment, new water heater and HVAC system that was installed. And then for impact, total impact, we were able to replace 113 systems, 40 water heaters, and a total of 73 HVAC systems. And so that was a combination of the air source heat pump and the wall-mounted PTEC terminal. So those are, if you're in a hotel and you see the systems that go through the wall, some of the smaller apartments didn't require those. We touched 74 rental units, and the total annual predicted savings across all those systems is $30,361 for that. And then to cover the last project, the new project is the solar photovoltaic for affordable housing. This funding was awarded to provide installation of rooftop solar arrays on single-family affordable housing. So all of these homes were built to the System Vision new construction standards. Our thought process was to provide solar to a population that would not typically have access to solar technology. And this was at no cost to the homeowner or the developer. We worked with North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. We identified 19 affordable housing organizations in Tier 1 and Tier 2 county, all of which, again, build to the System Vision standards. We sent out a request for application to those organizations. And let's see here. Our objective, again, was to support low-to-income households with rooftop solar, and also to provide education to the developers, to the affordable housing organizations. We provided installation standards, and we also collaborated with NC Green Power to get a recommendation for some solar contractors. We received 3 applications for this effort from Habitat for Humanities is who we're focusing on. Catawba Valley Habitat for Humanity, Forsyth County Habitat for Humanity, and Fayetteville Habitat for Humanity. Unfortunately, we were not able to accommodate Fayetteville because their construction schedule and our funding timeline didn't match. So we were not able to provide any solar there, but we did go back to our funders and we received approval to work with Orange County Habitat. They received partial funding for some solar panels, and we were able to assist with partial funding for those solar installs. So here are a few images of solar on rooftop in those different areas. Our goal was 5 solar installs, but thanks to the partnership with our collaborators, we were able to achieve 7. 3 of those homes are in our targeted Tier 2 county. And as I mentioned, Orange County is in Tier 4. We were able to subsidize 4 homes to receive solar. And as far as impact, we have lifetime and annual impact predicted savings. So the solar contractor was able to provide us with estimates on that. So predicted annual savings across all 7 of those homes is $7,175. Not only will they see that savings, but they will also benefit from, the lower electric bill and a lower carbon footprint. And then the savings are based on 12 cents per kilowatt hour for these homes. So to wrap up here, all projects were completed by September 30th. All projects met our objectives. So for total, we replaced 103 HVAC systems, installed 4 new duct systems, 40 water heaters, 7 rooftop solar PV systems, and the impact was to 37 single-family homes and 74 rental apartment units. And we were thankful for all of our partners at NCDQ, the electric cooperatives, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, NC Green Power, all of the contractors we work with, our HVAC contractors, plumbing contractors, and solar contractors that participated in this effort. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
It doesn't look like there are any questions for you, Lisa, but I would like to say thank you for the information you've given us. It's clear you all have been busy over this past year with these projects, and I appreciate that you all are actually out in the state getting these things done, and helping people in certain circumstances and giving us information that can help us all do our jobs better. So I appreciate it. Question I have for maybe this is for Brian, but Lisa, you chime in too if you have any information. We've read and heard a lot about federal funding opportunities as a result of both the IIJA and the IRA. And do you all have any indication that there are going to be opportunities for your organization going forward as a result of either one of these 2 pieces of legislation?
We feel very hopeful and that we will be successful in getting funding to continue the initiatives that Lisa has laid out, the initiatives that we have with schools, as well as other initiatives. So we are in the process of determining how best to go after that funding as an organization. But we feel strongly that we'll be successful in securing that. And of course, as you know, the timeline for that funding is longer than some of the funding efforts we've seen in the past. So we think it matches really well with the needs of the state.
Oh, good. And if there's anything this commission can do to assist in your efforts to secure that funding, then that needs to be made known to the commission.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure.
And I'd also like to mention that we're interested in helping others bring funding to the state wherever we can. And so we obviously want funding to help support these efforts, but we are talking to other stakeholders about how we may be helpful in their receiving funds to further their missions.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Brian.
Just, how do you relate or partner or coordinate with the weatherization program, who I think probably has some of the same target audience, and I think they're slated to get a huge influx of of funds moving forward. So do you have a relationship or partnership or anything with them?
Yeah, we have an ongoing relationship. We've been very active with weatherization at the national level. We developed the national standards for weatherization during the ARA funds time period. And we know and communicate well with the weatherization office in the state. We are focused on the deferral area is where we would like to have the most impact. And that is homes that are that can't be served by weatherization. And so there's a really high percentage of homes that are in too bad of shape to even be weatherized. And so we, especially with funding that may not be as tied to energy efficiency, are eager to help solve that deferral problem. But we work closely with weatherization, and that's where we'd like to have the most impact.
What do you do? What do you do in a deferral situation? Help me understand.
Yeah, so a deferral situation, you could have a home that has the potential to be weatherized, but it has a roof leak, mold issue. Some HVAC changeouts can't be performed by weatherization, and they essentially go into deferral and are there until they're repaired. And so that can be most often it's the requirement of the homeowner to have that happen. You have some areas of the state, Roanoke Electric has done a great job of being creative and finding funding to help fix those deferrals in various ways so that they can get them into their program.
Okay, so it's when you say deferral, it's a maintenance deferral. Is that
It's
what
a
you're talking
maintenance
about?
deferral. It's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the home has to be fixed and then before it can be weatherized.
So
Okay.
the homeowner has potential for tens of thousands of dollars in some cases of energy efficiency upgrades, but
But
they
not
can't
until-
realize it until they
Yep.
they have fixed their maintenance issues.
Okay. And just to follow up on Commissioner Hughes's question about weatherization, when we say you all were talking about the weatherization people, the weatherization team, what agencies specifically are you talking about?
So weatherization is an agency within the Department of Environmental Quality in the state.
Okay.
Then there is also a federal weatherization program
And where is that housed?
in DC, Washington, DC.
Well, no, I mean, in
I'm sorry.
which agency?
Of course. It is within EERE. I'm concerned that,
I'll find it.
yeah,
Okay.
DOE has a division called EERE.
Okay.
That breaks into other divisions, one of which is a buildings division.
And you all do work closely with DEQ's weatherization section?
We do.
Okay. Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Great,
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Jacob.
Thanks, Lisa. Good morning. Thanks so much for the time. I'll quickly just walk through a few updates from our electric transportation program from 2022. As you all know, it's been a really busy year for transportation electrification across light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty sectors. Just to kind of level set very quickly, I'd like to share some updates in terms of light duty vehicle adoption and infrastructure deployment across the state. The most recent data that we have is now coming from North Carolina's Department of Transportation, which was actually an outcome from Governor Cooper's original ZEP plan. It's been very helpful in just kind of communicating where we are in the state for county-based vehicle registrations. What I most importantly like to highlight is that from August 22, which is the most recent data set that we have, looking back 1 year previously, we saw a 50% increase in electric vehicles in North Carolina. That includes both plug-in hybrids and fully electric vehicles. So it does have kind of the dual fuel consideration there. And we're also seeing charging infrastructure, obviously, growing exponentially right now across the state, both for DC fast charging ports. This does include proprietary types like Tesla, as well as the other charging standards, plug standards for CHAdeMO and CCS. And then, of course, the level 2 deployments as well, reaching about 2,000 charge points across the state. Plug-in & See is a program that we've referenced before. It's been running since 2011 to provide outreach and education to individuals, community members, local governments, businesses, and state agencies across the state. One really kind of interesting and fun update is that just this past year, the DOE launched with the Clean Cities coalitions across the country, launched an initiative called Drive Electric USA that essentially tries to stand up state-based EV outreach programs. And Plug-in-NC has been referred to as kind of a model for those other state programs. And so we've been participating in that program, supporting the Clean Cities here in North Carolina. But it's been really fun to see those similar kind of initiatives and platforms stood up, with the scaffolding that we feel really proud to have built with Plug-in-NC. We're really noticing through the outreach events that we've been running and consistently delivering across the state that things are just getting much more interesting when you look at vehicle variety and diversity. So for example, this is from an outreach event in Statesville, North Carolina, a couple of months ago. And it really speaks to kind of the new landscape of the charging in the vehicle ecosystem. We've got a Kia EV6 that's actually dispatching to an electric motorcycle. This is one owner, so he owns the motorcycle, and it's also his electric vehicle. So he showed up to our event with a couple of miles of range on the motorcycle and discharged through the entire event. Which is just really exciting. One of the other things that we really noticed through the program this year is just the consistent need for information that individuals have, whether it's vehicle purchasing, questions about really how am I going to charge, where can I go, what does that look like, what kind of charging do I need in my home. But we're really also noticing the shift to more systems level questions, specifically for local governments and business operators, questions around charging selection, questions like not just should I have a networked or a non-networked charging station, but how do the decisions that I make today around my charging ecosystem that I would deploy as a business or as a local government, how might that impact the options and the choices that I have for the next 5 to 10 years when it comes to adding additional infrastructure to support growing charging needs. So it's just been a time where we're really noticing that demand across a lot of different sectors and agencies, business operations. I'd also like to highlight one field demonstration that we wrapped up this year. And I'd like to give credit to one of our colleagues, Daniel Reel, who was the principal engineer for our team with this project. This project launched in 2020 and is actually wrapping up in December of 2022. It is a field demonstration with the first, that we know of, the first UL-listed bidirectional charger available in the US. It's a Fermata 15 kW bidirectional charger. We partnered with a number of different organizations across the state, specifically Roanoke Electric Cooperative and Clean Energy Works. Also worked with the Environmental Defense Fund and the North Carolina Clean Energy Technology Center to essentially test 3 different use cases for this bidirectional charging application. The opportunity for it to reduce facility demand charges, monthly facility demand charges, the ability to actually initiate and respond to system-wide peak events that were signaled and flagged by North Carolina's Electric Membership Corporation and passed on to Roanoke Electric. And then lastly, a grid resiliency and islanding portion of basically how this charger would interact in an islanded state with a diesel generator backup. So I'll speak mostly about the kind of the 2 demand reduction considerations and kind of what we found there and some preliminary data. So for the facility demand reduction, you can see that there were some missed events in terms of how this charger responded to the building peak considerations. And I'll mention that basically the vehicles that we used to experiment with this technology were 2 Nissan Leafs that are right now some of the more capable bidirectional light-duty vehicles. Of course, Ford and other manufacturers have signaled an ability to do that. But of course, the Nissan Leaf is one of the most readily available EVs, also a much lower cost when you think about a fleet operation consideration. So it was a really good use case to experiment with that. There were some vehicle warranty considerations that we had to work out with the manufacturers because it's something that, of course, is a very new technology. But we were able to actualize new value streams for this technology. So essentially, in responding to those peak events from the facility demand consideration, we were able to discharge the battery, send that back to the building to reduce the overall demand during those windows. And you can see that the successful events, we were approaching 11 to 12 kW. And then the system-wide events was really exciting. So we saw about 4, in some scenarios, 3 to 4 events per month. There were, again, some missed events, but we saw a bit of a higher demand reduction there from a system consideration, approaching about 13 kW. What I'd like to highlight with that is the overall value stream that we saw using calculations that we have from Roanoke Electric Cooperative is that we were approaching about $300 a month of savings in using this vehicle as a grid asset. With that, it does not factor in, fuel and operational savings. These were fleet vehicles, I believe, that were being used for Roanoke Electric Cooperative's broadband deployment. And so they were in the field, they were using them. They would communicate, these time markers to those staff members that were operating the fleet. They would come back, plug in, and then the event would be programmed by Fermata Energy. And we did some of the data analysis to basically quantify these savings. I think the other thing that I'd really like to highlight with this is that Roanoke Electric Cooperative is in a service territory that has very little EV adoption right now. They've done a great job establishing and creating different programs and pilots, managed charging programs, ways to incentivize those options for their members and customers. But it's an area where the higher capital cost of the vehicle is difficult to overcome. And so, unlocking some of these new value streams is just really exciting when we think about ways that this could be deployed for, residential, EV drivers or facility operations as well. When we think about specifically how to target, how to enable or unlock some of these other kind of financial opportunities to overcome those capital costs. Specifically working with Roanoke Electric Cooperative, I think they were most interested in the opportunity to explore and deploy this technology with local schools, with worship centers, and then with local government operations from a light duty perspective. And then, of course, we're really, really thinking about what that means for other vehicle types. Most specifically, of course, the electric school bus. It's going to be the really big question of how does this technology work? How can we, again, actualize some new value streams that maybe we wouldn't have seen before to overcome those higher purchase costs of the vehicle itself. Whoa. I don't know what I did there.
While you're bringing that up, Jake.
Sure.
So if I understood from that end of your remark, this was a test of the technology, but it wasn't completely automated. There were, 2 drivers involved. So it was also in some respects a user test too. So like when you say it's missing, we don't know what happened, or you might know what happened, but so it was sort of a double test. You weren't just saying this is the ideal situation and you weren't controlling these from somewhere. It was sort of in the field control. Is that what I'm understanding?
Absolutely, yes. And,
Okay.
and that was a really important learning, is that when we think about the fact that there were still missed events, many of those events were just communications issues, right? From the electric cooperative. So this was installed at their headquarters. And of course the fleet operations were in-house. So they had a very clear communication channel, right? They were able to email and call. So if we think about what that would mean for a local government operator, where maybe you have additional, checkpoints of communication to say, hey, there is a system peak event coming. It could be more difficult to actually signal and execute on those events. There was only one event that actually was missed due to the charging equipment itself, and that was because it was actually performing a firmware update at the time that they were trying to run the event. So it just wasn't able to initiate. But besides that, it was absolutely related to human operation and communication. And just very quickly trying to wrap up kind of many of the kind of anecdotes that we've learned kind of throughout the year and how that's going to be applied to next year. Obviously, we're going to try to really capture some of our learnings from this light duty field demonstration and apply it to the technologies that we will see in the field in 2023 with electric school buses. I heard that Randolph County received an electric school bus last week, and so they are coming online. Managed charging is obviously going to be critical for utilities and customers across the state. There's a variety of different ways that we're seeing that happening, whether it's, passive behavior strategies like time of use rates, or of course, more active demand response considerations. And then, just very quickly, I'll highlight that the comment I made previously, local governments, businesses, tourism facilities and centers, and other commercial entities really have a lot of questions around what infrastructure planning will look like for them, how it resonates for them right now as an amenity or as a need, and then how those decisions affect their planning considerations for the next many years. And then we're definitely keeping an eye on, of course, on supply constraints, especially as we see the rollout of infrastructure deployment, whether it's through NEVI, North Carolina's VW settlement fund with the DC fast charger selection. We do have those sites awarded as a state, but it will be, we'll be really watching closely, like what kind of scenarios those sites run into, whether it's transformer delays, equipment delays, or any other kind of installation barriers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
One quick question. I mean, I think your last note here is very poignant about supply constraints for both vehicles and charging-related equipment may be a determining factor for adoption and deployment. And of course, I also observed that, I guess in the last year, there's been a 50% increase in the number of electric vehicles on the roads. I mean, have you looked at or projected to determine what adoption rate you think might be appropriate, or you have not gotten to that granular level of detail and just kind of observing things, but maybe you can help me with that.
Sure. Yes, we try to. What we're finding right now is actually the 80,000 EVs by 2025 that was established by Executive Order 80 is a pretty good benchmark. Things really seem to be tracking in that direction. And so there are, of course, plenty of global and national EV projections, but from a state perspective, we're finding that those numbers are aligning pretty closely and that we'll likely exceed them by 2025, especially if we're able to overcome just the vehicle availability from a light duty perspective. There are, plenty of EV drivers or plenty of drivers that are interested and even have committed to purchasing EVs that haven't received them or are paying, in some cases, many thousands of dollars above MSRP. So, the 50% growth is within the context of many of those vehicle constraints as well.
And other than the projects that you're pursuing at this time, I mean, if you were to look a year out or more to say what further research you'd like to do dealing with EVs, what would that be?
Yep, it's a really great question. I think maybe I'd answer it in two parts. I think that the question around the electric school bus is critically important, and there will be challenges and there will be a lot of pain points. And so really communicating what those challenges and what those barriers have been for operators and how those learnings can be applied to other school districts when you determine, how many you should have in your fleet and what routes they should be running, and what those charging cycles should look like. And then the other question is really about the infrastructure deployment. Where does the federal funding come into play with the infrastructure selection that, site hosts are thinking about? Should they be waiting to pursue a federal funding opportunity, or should they go ahead and commit today, using other mechanisms or measures to put infrastructure in the ground? And so I think that for us, it will really be about what's the quality of those installations and how quickly are they happening?
And last question, and I know we're in a tight timeline. I've heard that anecdotally that of electric charging stations that are out there today at any given point in time, an estimated 25% of them may not be functioning or operating. Have you heard information like that, or have you done any research relating to that issue in terms of reliability? That's where it's kind of in, I guess.
Absolutely. That number would be more close for the DC fast charging stations across
Okay.
the state. Absolutely. It's probably a little bit on the high end, but the reliability numbers are certainly something to watch out for. I was just talking with the program manager for NCDEQ's VW settlement program yesterday. They now have quite a few DC fast chargers deployed. And so we were talking through the opportunities to basically review what the operation, like what the uptime looks like for those stations, because I think we can see it anecdotally, as you mentioned, but haven't been able to really see it from a North Carolina system level yet, because we have so many different station providers, so many different network operators.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Jacob, for the presentation. It's very interesting information that is certainly timely for us to be hearing about, so thank you. All right, Joanne, turning it back over to you.
All right, all right. I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to thank Jacob, Lisa, and Brian. Great presentation. We appreciate it very, very much. And members of the commission and others who have attended today, we appreciate it. We can make the slides that they spoke to available digitally if that is helpful to the commission, and we'll certainly follow up on any questions. We've made some of our own notes. With that, I would like to close on one note that is a little bit personal, but actually is about one of your predecessors. Bob Koger, as you all know, recently died in November, and there was a memorial service for him Saturday morning. It was well attended by a lot of people who spent a lot of time in this room over the years. And so many, many things were said about Bob, including by Bob Goodson, who noted that among many other things, Bob Koger was a mentor and a friend to an awful lot of people in and out of that room on Saturday, and many of whom have spent a lot of time in this room. When I was sent to this building, relatively clueless, about to do energy and utilities related things by an attorney general in the early to mid 80s, I fortunately found my way to Bob Koger, which was a happy event for me, and like many others in addition to me, was mentored and was advised by Bob. He combined a strong technical knowledge as the engineer he was, who had worked for the commission for a number of years, with his assiduous commitment to learning the law, and with a pretty incredible ability to figure how policy, I mean, we all know and read and believe it to be true that the legislature makes policy and you implement it, but the fact is their policy is pervasive throughout these decisions, and depending on how you define policy, and he seemed to know how to define it. So he was a towering presence in many ways, but with respect to matters concerning innovation and efficiency and energy in this state for many, many years, 40 years with advanced energy. And he was active until relatively near the end. He would have enjoyed this presentation today, and I thank you for the opportunity that I've taken to recognize him in this room. With that, we conclude our presentation. Thank you again.
All right, well, thank you all, and thank you, Joanne, for those words about Bob. So, all right, with that, we'll be adjourned. Thanks, everybody.